Hello. Topic of today's quick Grok video is data validation in TopBraid Edge. TopBraid Edge has data validation features to help you keep information in Edge consistent and clean. I will demonstrate these features using geography taxonomy as an example. It works the same across all asset collections in Edge. In every asset collection, you could switch to the problems and suggestions layout or just bring in problems and suggestion panel. This panel is used to run a data validation report. It's called problems and suggestions because in addition to checking for validity of data, it could also be used to generate suggested mappings. And when it finds data validity problems, sometimes it can offer you suggestions for fixing them. So for example, here we found 4 problems. We see that in case of Afghanistan, let me move this to show only properties that have values. So we see that in case of Afghanistan, the alpha 2 country code should be 2 characters, and it's currently have 3 characters. We could use one of the suggestions and apply, and the data is changed. In the case of Germany, we see that the preferred label is the same as an alternative label, and that validates another constraint where preferred and alternative labels should not share values in the same language. As you could see here, we could click on resources that have issues, and then they will show up on the form. And on the form, we also see the same issue displayed next to the property which values have problems. This is actually controlled by the settings menu, so you could decide whether you want to show problems and suggestions or not. And if you choose not to, then they will not be shown, and they will appear only if we try to make some changes. So just for the argument's sake, I'm gonna try to make an edit, and then as I save changes, TopBraid Edge will tell me that there's one error, and the error gets displayed. There's a setting that you could use edge-wide, where the Edge should allow you to save changes even if errors are present or not. In this case, the setting allows us to save changes in the presence of errors, so I could click Save Changes Anyway and save that. So let's explore more issues that we found. We see that Iceland has no parent, which is considered to be an orphan. Basically, it has no values in the broader property. And we could change that. So let me click on Edit. And we could give it a broader concept, let's say Europe. And let's rerun validation. Now we fixed a couple of issues, so we only have 2 issues left. So where do these issues come from? They come from ontologies, the model that defines our asset types. In this case, the type is country. So I could click on it, and you see that it's defined in the TopBraid examples ontology. I could click through to open the ontology, and their constraints are defined. For example, in case of countries, we see that there are alpha 2 and alpha 3 country codes, and the maximum length of the code is 2. So I could show you all other possible constraints that one could define. There are quite a number of them. So you could see min and max count, constraints on data types, on values with min and max, inclusive and exclusive, constraints on length. I could specify a regex pattern that the value must follow. This is a primary key constraint that is demonstrated in a reference dataset video. And then there is also various inference rules that can be specified. So that's the type of constraints that you have for a property that is an attribute. And there's also another set of constraints for a relationship. There's quite a bit of an overlap, but for a relationship, you could, for example, say that it's symmetric, and you could, instead of picking a data type, you pick a class of values. So let's introduce a new constraint on, let's say, a calling code, and make it required. So I'm going to say set min count to 1. Also, let me show you another feature. So we could say for each constraint whether it is a violation or warning or just info. So these are called severity levels. If no severity level is specified, then each issue considered to be a violation. But we could use these settings to control the behavior, whether we could save or not when there are issues. All right, so now let me return to the geography taxonomy, and I'm going to refresh for the change in schema to propagate, and I'm going to rerun my validation. So as you can see now, we have a number of other issues because in various cases we don't have a calling code and the calling code is required. So that gives you an overview of how you could run problems and suggestions. There are some controls on in this setting menu. For example, you could skip generating suggestions. You could control confidence of suggestions. You could skip validation. In this case, just the mapping suggestions will be generated, and so on. Also, there is a little filter here. So for example, if I didn't want it to check everything, but I could check only instances of class country, for example. And I'm going to rerun and see. Now I have 16 results because not all concepts are being checked, but only those type country. So that gives you a short overview of how to define constraints and how to run a validation in TopBraid Edge. Thank you for watching.